Hello everyone, welcome to Painting with Kendra. In this course we're going to be exploring painting through history, and what better place to start than thousands and thousands of years ago with cave painting. Yes, the original artists, the cave painters. Now, why would people who lived thousands and thousands of years ago paint on walls, you might ask? Well, we don't really know the answer, but it's probably kind of similar to why we paint now. Maybe there was a need for self-expression, maybe there was an urge to communicate something, or maybe there was an urge to tap into something spiritual. But whatever the reason, they did, and they exist, and it's the beginning visual language that we have. It predates written language, so it's the first time that we see a kind of communication from ancient past. So we're going to be looking at cave paintings. We're going to be thinking about the tools that they used. We're going to be thinking about the materials they had accessible and the content that they chose to depict. And usually the content was nature inspired. Most of the time they were hunting, gathering, existing, surviving, and that is shown in the cave paintings. Animals heavily featured, right? Animals would have been a huge part of society in terms of food, in terms of, fur, in terms of bone. Like there was a lot of different elements of an animal that were useful before we even started farming. So animals often depicted, humans of course depicted as well. As well as handprints. There's a lot of handprints in cave art. But yeah, they had limited colors, they had limited tools, they had to find everything, make everything. So part of our exercise in this painting is going to be to try to keep our tones neutral and earthy, and also to use tools that we find outside. So I am going to be painting with a stick. I will try to incorporate other objects as well, but it'll largely be a stick because that's a comfortable tool for me. It's very similar to a paintbrush, but hands are totally valid tools today. Rocks, grab a whole bunch of stuff from outside and just play around today. So that's part of the fun. And our first step today is going to be recreating what feels like a cave wall, which is kind of a painting all in itself. How are we going to do that, right? It's going to be a fun abstract exploration of texture, color, focusing on those neutral tones like you would see on a cave wall. All right, so I'm going to get my gift card. I'm going to get my brown paint here so we can get started. So I have some different brown pigments here. This is kind of a yellowy brown. Raw sienna, raw umber. I think this is probably burnt sienna. Yep, this is burnt sienna. Feel free to incorporate a bit of white into your painting as well. And I'm just going to use a traditional canvas today. Now I'm going to show you a few kind of tricks here that are going to create a really cool cave background. But the first thing we're going to do is just apply color. And I don't want to use a brush, so I'm going to use this old guest key card that I accidentally kept from a hotel. And what I'm going to do is just blot some paint down, and then I'm going to scrape it all over here. Now, remember, we're going to get dirty. If this is a concern, please make sure that you have appropriate clothing for this task. So nothing too nice, basically. We've got some new paint here, so just opening it up. Make sure you have clothes you can get paint on. Make sure you have permission to get dirty, and make sure you're painting in a space where, if it does get dirty, it's going to be okay. All right, I think I will just add a little bit of white because this is feeling, I can already see it's going to be quite dark here. I don't have white handy, but I do have this color, and this is kind of a peachy color. I think this should work as just something to brighten it up. There we go. So I have my pigment down. I'm going to use my gift card, and I'm just going to go like this. I don't want to overmix, but I do want to kind of, have a little bit of a blend here. I don't want it to feel too perfect either, so I'm just trying to smooth this over my canvas. And this can be a very abstract kind of a approach here, right? It actually this is one of my favorite ways to do abstract painting, is just to kind of roll your gift card across your surface. But all right, so I don't want it to feel too structured. I'm going to go down, I'm going to go up, but it's starting to have a little bit of a rock stone feel here. This is not our final layer, so don't feel pressure to make this one perfect, but actually I quite enjoy this. I almost wish it was my final layer. All right, a couple different angles here. I think that's good. We have coverage like that. So Might take you a second to do this. Feel free to pause the video at this point. The next thing we need to do after you're done this is give this a quick blow dry, and then we're going to add in a second layer. So pause the video as needed, finish this up, give it a blow dry, and then we will jump into our next step. Okay, my painting is dry. I hope yours is too. And again, remember, we can pause that video, so don't start it back up until you're ready. Now, I do want to point out that my paint cracked a little bit, and this is actually a very good thing when you're looking to achieve something that looks like stone or a brick, or not a brick wall, a cave wall, I should say. So we have a little bit of cracking going on here. Now, you may or may not have had this happen on your own painting, and we want this today. So if it doesn't happen, not a big deal. It is a little bit particular in terms of the kind of paint that you have. It's harder to do with thick paint. It's easier to do with a thinner brand of paint like a crafter paint. If your paint comes in a tube like this, usually it's going to work well. If your paint comes in a tube like this, it's going to be a little harder, so don't stress if it doesn't happen. Even without the cracks, it should still look great. All right, so I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to blot my paint on. Now, in order to get these cracks, we need to blow dry it at a high speed. We also want our paint to be on very thick. It's going to take some time to blow dry, so just be patient with it. But you're gonna see the paint start to crack as the blow dryer moves the dry paint and exposes the wet paint underneath. So that's why we need it to be thick, so that there's enough paint to dry, but also keep a wet layer. So it kind of goes like this and then breaks apart, and then you see the paint underneath it. My paint is dry now, so I'm going to apply a nice thick layer of paint using my crafter paints. I loved the way this turned out, so I'm just going to try to do the exact same thing here. I like this color here, actually. I think that this is maybe my favorite color on that. And I'm going to use a little less of the burnt sienna, the reddish color, because I want the reds of my painting to pop a little bit more. So I'll use a little bit, like I do like it in there, but I don't want it to distract either. So, and this paint won't move as much anyway. There, so I have a nice amount of paint on there. I'm going to use my same old gift card here. And again, I'm just going to try to get that kind of organic look that I managed the first time around. I can always add more paint. Like, this doesn't feel quite as nice. I guess I do need that burnt sienna in there. Let's get some of that in there. There we go. I might use just a little bit more of this as well. Again, we do want our paint to be thick today. And feel free to add some water if you're using like a nicer brand of paint. Like, the more expensive paints tend to be thicker. They tend to behave more like oil paint, actually. The crafter paints are meant for painting on, wood toys, and they're just a little bit thinner. They dry easier. Just, yeah, there's good and bad about every paint, but today those cheaper paints are going to work better for you. All right. I might want to add just a little bit more paint here. Again, I want it to be thick enough to move. You need it to move. So just being loose, blending, not blending too much. I don't want it to feel all the same color. But I do want those kind of brick, or I keep saying brick, cave-like kind of feels to it. So I'm just lightly dragging my gift card across. Something else you can do is you can push something down on your surface and pick it up again. That can actually be really cool looking. And maybe I'll do just a little bit of that here. Now add a bit more paint. Just looking for that thickness. The more paint you have, the more time it's going to take to dry. So do expect it to be a little bit time consuming here, this next step. Maybe have some lunch, come back to your painting just to give it a full amount of time to dry. Oh yeah, that's better. Look at those colors. I love that. So I'm just pressing really lightly so that I don't scrape the paint off. Like, I'm barely touching this thing as it goes over. Oops. And I'll do a little bit of that push down, pick up. See how that gives you those little, there we go. So you can do a little bit of that too. That might be easier to do with a different tool, the gift card. Get your hands in there a little bit too much, but all of these kind of organic feeling things are gonna help with that cave look. But yeah, you could just take a piece of paper, press it down, lift it up, and that would actually give you a lot of these kind of ripples that I'm getting here. But I want a combination of ripples and just more flat texture. There we go. All right, so you can see there's lots of paint on here, lots of texture, lots of thickness, right? The thickness is what's going to give us that ability to move, the ability to crack the paint. Now I'm going to zoom right in so you can see. I'm going to start to blow dry. I'm not going to blast the blow dryer in your ear, but I am going to blow dry here so you can see the paint move. I'm going to zoom right in here to this spot, and I'm going to focus on this spot as I blow dry. So you can see the cracking is happening, right? It's very subtle right now, but the more I blow dry, the more that's going to start to push that dry paint away and expose the wet paint underneath. So I'm going to zoom out. I just wanted to kind of show you that. I'm going to move across my painting. I'm going to hold my dryer nice and close so the pressure is really aggressive, and I'm going to continue to do that. I'll zoom into a few places here, but I'll go in fast motion for you so you're not watching me for 5 minutes here. All right, so now we should have a dry background. Again, you may need to wait an hour or so because your paint is quite thick, and blow drying is only going to get that surface layer. So just make sure it's dry, make sure you can't move your paint around. And you should have something that looks kind of like this. And already, this is a very interesting painting. Like, look at some of these areas here, right? And this is all just kind of accidental. Well, accidentally on purpose. I mean, I did follow the techniques and I knew it was going to look something like this, but I didn't really know exactly what it would look like until it happened. We're going to be using our own kind of tools here today. So instead of a paintbrush, what I want you to do is go outside. So you can do it right now. Go outside and collect some sticks, collect some rocks. Just grab some things that you might be interested in trying to paint with. So I did this just to show you some different tools that you could have today. So I'm just going to grab them here. All right, so I brought in a couple of rocks. There we go. Oh, I brought a bug in. That is not a surprise. So just make sure you're not bringing in any bugs that are, you know, gonna get all over your house. So I found a couple of sticks outside. Nothing special about these sticks. Just brought in a couple different points to them. If you have a really fine stick, that's going to be able to give you a little bit more detail. So just grabbed a few sticks. I grabbed some straw. I grabbed some grass. I grabbed this, what is this called? It's like an onion, but it's got this kind of flowery end. And I grabbed some charcoal from my fire pit. And believe it or not, charcoal from your fire pit is an art tool. Maybe not too much on here. There we go. This is pretty smooth, but you can draw with charcoal on paper. So, you know, charcoal is an art tool. So sticks, twigs, if you have access to random things, you can kind of get a little bucket, bring some stuff in, and then we're going to try to use these tools to apply our paint, plus of course our fingers. All right, so go find some stuff and then pause the video. Meet me back here when you're done. Okay, so before we get too deep into our painting here, I just wanted to look at, let me turn this around, I just wanted to look at some cave art here, just so we can, you know, set expectations for ourselves. Now, this depicts people hunting, which, you know, would have been a common activity, of course. And let's just look at the shapes that we're looking at here. There's no form. Form is lighting. There's really no form. What we have here are some pretty basic shapes. I'm just gonna zoom in here and trace this out for us. then these are the arrows here. There we go. So there's one of our forms. Here's another one. And I'm doing this very loosely, but I just want to show you how rudimentary these are here, just so you take all the pressure off yourself today. This is a stick figure, right? These are stick figures as far as people go. And then everything else is very basic, right? We have a block, we have a stick figure. So if we wanted to draw, like I'm going to draw a hedgehog today, I know the form of my hedgehog is like kind of like this. And this is already probably too comprehensive of a hedgehog, right? So that's a hedgehog shape. That could be a hedgehog. Now, I know myself, I'm going to end up adding a whole bunch of texture and stuff to mine, but I'm going to be using tools that are not going to allow me to get detail. So something like that, again, totally fine. That is absolutely a hedgehog. If I wanted to draw a cat, I might even, do kind of this boxy body. Maybe my cat would have a long neck and a couple of ears and, the 4 legs and a tail. Like that could be a cat. If I wanted to draw a butterfly, butterflies are, I guess, a little bit more, simple, but something like that. But we're talking about really basic kind of drawings today. We don't need to be doing anything too complicated. Remember, those people were basically this, right? We're not talking about, I'm going to have this one holding a paintbrush. We aren't talking about anybody who, like, drawings that are going to be overly difficult. So don't feel like you have to add detail. Remember, simple is good. Like this one has 2 tones to it, right? So you can add a couple of different colors. Oh, look, we do have a bit of white here. So we will bring in some lightness to our drawing today. But a lot of this is just silhouette, just really simple. This is a beautiful example of a little bit of detail incorporated into a cave painting, but even this is proportionally inaccurate, right? Like this body is too long, these legs are too short and too skinny to support this body, most likely. We are seeing it from the side, so we're seeing it from kind of its most basic perspective. If we were to draw this at a 3/4 angle, it would be much difficult. So most of the animals you're going to see depicted are from the side. So really, all I'm saying is keep it simple today. No stress. Stick figures are okay. All right, let's get going. So here's my paint palette. I'm going to use black and red. Those are going to be my 2 main colors. All right, so I have a very vibrant red here. I have black, and then I may incorporate a little bit of white into it as well. There we go. But, colors that we would get from nature, you would probably also have the advantage of using a color like this. Pretty common in nature, so throw that in the mix as well. So this is going to be my color palette to start. Tempted to do this one. You know what? Why not? Let's put it on the palette and see how it goes. Now, I am not going to use a paintbrush. Oops. Looks like I got some paint on my painting there. I am going to start off with a stick. I think a stick is probably the closest thing I have to a paintbrush. So I have a few different sticks here. This one has a bit of a chisel to it, which could be nice as well. Actually, I think this one will be good. I feel like I'll have a lot of control with this one. So I'm going to start off with this. And I'm holding it like a pencil. It feels very fun. I'm going to start off with this kind of lighter color here, just to get my sketch in. So again, hedgehogs, I'm going to draw it from the side. And I'm not looking for perfection here, but I kind of know what a hedgehog looks like. So just kind of dropping in some paint really loosely here. Now, a finger is probably the easiest thing to apply paint with, but I'm starting off with a little bit of this. Yeah, I might move into my finger here. I think this will be better for the lines. So I'm going to put that down. I'm just going to go right into finger painting here. Yeah, this is working pretty good. Go. So I'm getting the form figured out here. So I'm still going to be thinking about things like light and shadow, but it is going to be a much more 2D piece of art. Use a little bit of red in here. And kind of almost blending, using just my dabbing technique here. Little ears there. There was a lot of red in cave paintings, at least from what we can see, because the red stuck to the rocks. So hedgehogs aren't really red, but that's okay. We're almost mixing a little bit of a brown red here. Okay, I'm going to throw just a little bit of this more brown color in. No, it doesn't look like too much right now, but that's okay. I'm planning on kind of doing the details at the end here. All right. So I think that's pretty good in terms of the overall form. Throw a little more darkness into here. Now, I do want there to be a little bit more control. So finger painting's fine and great, but it's not giving me the control that I'm looking for. So I'm gonna go back in here, just lightening up this area a bit. There we go. I'm gonna give my hand a little bit of a wipe down here, and I'm gonna start to add in some line now. Look through, you can use other tools that I'm not using. You don't have to use exactly what I'm using. I might actually use a piece of straw for the line. The reason being is I think I can kind of bend this into a faux brush. So I'm gonna give that a go here. I'm kind of twisting it so I have this end. And then this end kind of feels brush-like. I think I can get it to feel brush-like there. I'm gonna see how that is. Just kind of experimenting here today, so. Oh, that's very aggressive. I wonder if people from thousands of years ago had favorite sticks for drawing. I bet they did. Probably also would have used animal hair, which is what brushes are kind of made of, is animal hair, so that makes sense. I'm going to switch over to my stick here. I'm going to do a little bit more detail-oriented work. Kind of scratching in those lines. Probably a lot of scratching would happen on a cave painting, I would think. Here's that ear. Kind of looks like a mouse right now, doesn't it? Gotta get those spikes in. Yeah, so this is actually working quite nicely. I'm enjoying scratching into this paint. So you can see I'm lifting back to our base layer, which is why it's so important for that base layer to be dry. Could have almost painted this black and scratched out a bit here. All right, so we have our little feet. One little foot, we have a soft belly here, and we have our second little foot. Hedgehogs have surprisingly long feet for what you think when you see them. I'll surprise you. Now I have a little bit of like hay and stuff in my drawing, a little bit of straw, but that's okay. I'm not too worried about that. But you can see I'm getting a really loose effect here. Like I don't have the control I normally would have, and that's okay because we're not going for something really refined today. I'm gonna add an eye. There we go. Yeah, but I am getting this kind of rawness to my subject matter. I do think I should let this dry before I add the white in though, or I'm going to end up mixing, and that would give me pinks, and I feel like that would feel wrong. I'm just going to add some color back in here. Maybe a bit of red in there too. Just there. I like the scratchiness. Actually, this is starting to get texture is really becoming interesting. It's kind of semi-abstract, but you know, has that cave painting kind of quality to it. Now, cave painting usually depicted more than one thing, so maybe you would have other little hedgehogs kind of in and around, maybe in different positions. something interesting about hedgehogs is they do go in different positions when they're afraid. So maybe around this I could draw like a hedgehog here that's like afraid. It would have like kind of spikes all around, right? Just spiky little hedgehog here. And you don't have to draw hedgehogs. As a reminder, you can draw whatever you like. But I have a hedgehog, so it makes sense that if I were an artist in the days of prehistoric art, it is likely that I would have been inclined to draw something I felt passionately about. So hedgehog might be that thing. Probably would have viewed animals in a very different way, though. More of a way to exist rather than a companion, but who knows? All right, so that's kind of my like balled up hedgehog. So this one doesn't use any color except that black, just using the black stick. I'm finding that's working super well for me, so I'm just going to keep on doing that. I feel like I need to fill out my page a little bit more. I'm going to draw just a little hedgehog here. I'll just draw another one from the side, I think. You'll often see the same thing repeated over and over again, especially if they're depicting a herd or something like that. So with these ones, I think I'm just going to stick to the black. Black would have been more common, I think. Easier to come by than some of the other colors. And then, you know, from my reading, it seems like the pigment was often mixed with like animal fat and oils and stuff to make it stick, and spit and blood and, you know, whatever they had handy. That's actually a cute little hedgehog. Like that one. All right. And I feel like maybe one more. Let's see. Maybe I'll do little paw prints. That would be kind of cute, right? Paw prints on my, I think this is what hedgehog paw prints look like. I don't actually really know, but I know there were a lot of human handprints in cave paintings, so I could understand, you know, following tracks and stuff was probably pretty important. So I'm sure if I did my research, I'd see some sort of animal tracks featured in cave paintings. So here's my little animal tracks. And then I think that'll complete my composition. I just wanted to fill this out a bit more. I felt like having something centered on the page, like I did when I just had that single object in there, didn't feel true to the style I was hoping to represent, because it was too centered and the compositions just felt too forced. So I'm glad I branched out a little bit there. Just adding in just a bit more texture. All right, so I am going to give that a blow dry, and then I might decide to add in just a little bit of white there as well. So my painting is dry. I still feel like my composition might be a bit too good. So I'm going to take that stick that I found that I liked, and it did take me a little bit of experimenting to get here. And I'm going to do another little hedgehog, maybe coming just here inward. I want to have something that's off the page, because yeah, when I've seen pictures of cave drawings, it's not just this one thing, right? So this way it'll feel like a piece of a larger piece of artwork if I have things coming off the page. So I have the footprints coming off the page. Now I have the secondary hedgehog kind of, you know, grouping coming off the page. I think I'm even going to add just a one down here. Like, you know, when you have a pattern and you're sewing clothes, at some point the pattern has to go off the edge of the clothes. There, that's going to be a little hedgehog there, just the hint of one there. There we go. So we got a couple little hedgehogs there. And I think that feels a little bit better now. Yeah, I think so. So most of this is dry. I'm going to use a new stick for my white. I did grab some smaller sticks, so something like that might be good for detail. I also grabbed this. Now this has a softer point to it, so it might be good for painting. I'm just trying to imagine. Rather than scratchy, it would be a little bit more gentle. I'll try that. And instead of white, I'm going to use this color. It's buttermilk, so not quite white, but bright. I think white might be too much of a departure. I can't think of too many things that would give me pure white that are found in nature, but maybe, you know, if you were to take some different flowers, or, you know, potato might give you, like starch might give you kind of a white. So I'm just adding a little bit. I do feel like it's quite aggressive. So I might regret this here, but that's okay. What I might choose to do here is just blend it a little bit with some of my other colors, just so it doesn't feel quite so white. And then there we go. And this is working okay. It's not giving me a refined line, and it's not scratching into the surface like the other one was, so it is a little bit different. And in here, I'm tempted to go back in with my finger actually, because I kind of want to lift some of these colors a bit. Yeah, just keep going here. I'm gonna add a little bit more of this kind of reddish tone, just to dilute that a bit. There we go. That's feeling a bit better. I was feeling too aggressive, so I'm glad I didn't choose white. I kind of wish I'd done the blend just a little sooner. But this is definitely giving me a lighter color than my background, and that's kind of what I'm looking for, because I don't need it to be too aggressively white. I'm just going to add a little bit in here. Just going to dull that one with some black. There we go. Black can go over everything, which is kind of nice. Okay. All right. So I feel like this is kind of looking pretty finished now. Adding just a little bit of this color into here. Didn't really have too much before, and then I think I'll be done. And like cave painting, I mean, we're just kind of recreating something that existed a long time ago. Take your own creative interpretation of it. Something that might be fun would be to do cave paintings of very modern things, right? Like what would we paint? We might paint ourselves watching Netflix. We might paint ourselves driving a car, like just completely contradicting what cave painting originally was, which was this like nature focused survival kind of illustration. Something like that might be really fun to explore. So have some fun with it. As a matter of fact, I think I might teach that exact thing at some point, because I love the idea of that. All right, I'm going to call it. I think that's pretty good. I will sign my name with my trusty original stick that I liked with that fine little point there. And I'm going to put my name over here. Okay. M for Kendra Malcolm. Whoops, that got a little messy. So that's bound to happen. Sorry, I got a bit of a cold here. All right, KM, little messy KM over there, drawn with a stick. So there's my cave painting. I hope you enjoyed this class. I hope you enjoyed learning the technique about how to get that background. I think that's super fun. Again, I use that all the time. And then just enjoyed painting with some different tools rather than your paintbrush, trying to get back to like what it would have been like to try to paint with existing material back in the day when all we had was nature and a stone wall as our canvas. I hope you enjoyed this lesson. Please send me your work if you want feedback, and I'll see you again soon. Thanks so much, everyone. Bye. Let's see what my hedgehog thinks of my painting here. What do you think, sweetheart? I think she approves.